Hi, everyone. If you're just joining us, we are waiting a few minutes to let everyone in. Just keep hanging tight. Okay. Hi, Melanie. Hi, Austin.
Hello.
Oh, good. You can unmute yourself. That makes me so happy.
If my husband were here, he would disagree. I'm going to mute myself again.
Okay. Hi, Krista.
Hello, how are you?
I'm hanging in there. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We're just going to wait a few minutes and let some other folks get on. Where are you joining us from, just out of curiosity?
I am in Georgia.
Okay, so you're on my time zone. That's good. Where in Georgia?
Noonan. Have you heard of that?
I haven't.
It's south of Atlanta.
Okay, that works for me. I'm in Miami, Florida, so.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We're not that far. And I went to school in Tallahassee, so that's pretty much Georgia.
Oh. Okay.
Hey, Josie, thanks for joining. Hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Thanks so much for taking the time to hop on. Are you ready for tomorrow?
I'm kind of nervous.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Don't worry about it. You're in good hands. Don't just take a deep breath through it. When you're going through that process in the beginning, everybody scares you, but I promise you it's not that bad. You're going to be fine.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting a few minutes to just make sure that a few other people can join us. We have quite a few registered, so I'm going to give it another couple minutes if that's okay with you all.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
It's a webinar. It's a Zoom meeting, Jen. Jaden.
And guys, just so you know, if you hear some background noise at some point in the not so distant future, hubby does bed and bath time around here. So it's going to happen in the back. There's no way around it. So I'm sorry. All right, if it's okay with you all, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And as people join, I will make every attempt possible to look at the chat and multitask here. Full disclosure, this is my first time doing a webinar, so we may have some technical difficulties, and I'm apologizing in advance for that. So just kind of bear with me if you can. All right, so this is our first webinar regarding our upcoming advocacy campaign, which I have called 22 and 22, and you all will learn why very shortly. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. Okay, so this is me. You don't need to look at the picture. Basically, I was hired in this past May. I'm the community engagement specialist for PWSA USA. I am also a real estate broker with One Sotheby's International Realty down here in Miami. I am a native Miamian, and in 2017, I had a son, Hunter. Some of you may have already seen my crazy posts all over Facebook with my beautiful child, whom I'm completely obsessed and in love with, who also has PWS. I'm involved in the community down here in Miami. I'm involved in the city of South Miami. I have an extensive background of public service in the Florida legislature and local government, Broward County, Miami-Dade County, and some city officials. I'm a parent mentor with PWSA, and I'm also a mentor with the ACE Foundation Women's Leadership Institute. Okay, so I'm just getting right into it here. So what I wanted to start with is our timeline of where we started with advocacy and where we would like to go. And I can't see my chat anymore, so let me see if I can move this around. Okay, there we go. Give me one more second. I just want to make sure that if anybody's asking a question, I can see it. And I can't, so that's great. So I'm starting in it's blank. Okay. I'm starting in 1994 because that's when the first state recognized PWS as a qualifying condition. And I'm starting with recognizing PWS as a qualifying condition because that's what's been helpful for so many parents when they start to fight the battles with insurance and what their state is going to cover and what their state is not going to cover. We will go back to that in a little bit. In 2010, on the national level, is when PWS Awareness Month was recognized nationally. So what is it that we're trying to do in 2022? In 2022, we want to start getting the rest of the states to at least acknowledge that PWS actually exists. So the road to having PWS recognized as a qualifying condition in states has to start with baby steps, right? Baby steps are like a proclamation, for example. Something that just says, hey, guys, we recognize that there is this thing called Prader-Willi syndrome. It is a rare disease. It affects, a lot of members of our community, and we need to start doing things that will help this community obtain services, obtain therapies, things of that nature. So our goal is to have 22 states recognize PWS as recognize PWS as a rare disease within 2022. So that's where we go, the 2022 to 2023. I have 2022 to 2023 because that's the way the legislative years work. And then our goal for the following few years is to take the remaining states and have them begin to recognize PWS as a qualifying condition. So then what is advocacy? I'm assuming that most of you already know what advocacy is about. So activity by an individual or a group to influence decisions, whether they're political, economical, social, so on and so forth. Most groups are starting to use social media, which is where you see our PWS community doing a lot of our advocacy efforts. So advocacy is not passive, folks, it's action. So nonprofit organizations have a tendency to have lower advocacy participation. Most organizations don't have the resources to hire a full-time advocate or invest in resources to hire an advocate for legislative change. In addition, the knowledge of the legislative process and its complexity it's complicated, and most people are a little turned off by that. So at PWSA USA, we understand that these things take time. We understand that changing the system takes time, that it starts at the local level, it works its way up, and it can include all sorts of different types of civic involvement. So there are several different types of advocacy. So we can start with administrative advocacy, which is after a law is passed, how does it get implemented? So that's usually done by a state agency. So for example, the Department of Health or Department of Education, a law is passed, they have to figure out a way to put that law in place. We obviously are not doing anything like that. Then there's the legal advocacy, which is also something that we'd like to stay away with. It usually involves some sort of litigation, court system, things like that. Community advocacy is where we stand. Usually community advocacy involves vulnerable populations. And when advocates in a community get together, it's usually to change public perception about a certain idea, certain thing. So in our case, obviously that's Prader-Willi syndrome. We start at the grassroots and we work our way up. We utilize local resources, get in touch with elected officials. We do everything we can to start bringing awareness. So that brings me to our next stage. So these are the states that currently recognize PWS as a qualifying condition. And I'm going back to that because you can see that this starts back in 1994. It goes all the way through 2018. I've been having a little bit of difficulty finding the actual legislation from the state of Oklahoma and the state of Alaska. But we do know that PWS is a qualifying condition in both of those states. But you can see how many years it's taken just to get these 14 states on the books. So this is a marathon, folks, not a sprint. I know that may sound cliche, but it really is the truth. This is a process that we need to be prepared to go through for some time. So what do we want to do? We want to get some recognition. And by recognition, I mean recognizing that PWS exists. In all of the states that you saw previously, those states recognized PWS in existence prior to recognizing that PWS is a qualifying condition in their state for medical benefits. So we have to start somewhere. So we need to start with recognizing that PWS exists and how it affects our families. So what I am asking for our advocates to do, the reason we've asked for at least one advocate for each state is because we want you all to go to your state elected officials, your state senator and your state representative, either or possibly both, and ask if they would sponsor a resolution to declare PWS Awareness Day in your state. So for example, we know that PWS Awareness Month is the month of May. I am contacting my representative and asking that my representative sponsor a resolution that recognizes PWS in the state of Florida, PWS Day. For me in Florida, May is not an issue because our legislative session happens to fall within the month of May. That may not be something that everyone else can do, but it's if you have the option, that would be great. So how do you find your state representatives, your state senators, your state elected officials? So this is something that we are working on at PWSA USA. So hopefully in the not so distant future, you'll be able to do this on our website. But in the meantime, there are several other websites you can go to, and you all will have access to this webinar. It's being recorded, just so you know. And all of these links will be posted. So you can, I wonder if I click on any of these links, if you all can see them. I don't know if I should do that because I'm afraid I'm going to lose my page. But Congress.gov is a great place to start. There's actually a map, like the one that I had a couple slides ago, where you can click on your state, you can plug in your zip code, and it will bring up your state elected officials. It will also bring up your governor and anybody in the cabinet. That's a good way to start to find who your elected officials are. So here is where we're starting with this. So I don't know. I can't hear any of you all. I think everyone is on mute. So if you don't, oh, hi. Do any of you happen to know who your state representative or state senator is? I think you can go ahead and unmute yourselves. I want to hear you guys. Anyone? Does no one know? No one knows.
It's at the lower left-hand corner. If you go to your computer, and it will say mute or unmute.
It does say mute or unmute. Okay, so if you don't know who your elected officials are, you can go to the previous page. You can go to findyourmember.com. Get to know who these people are. Find out what committees they are on. Find out if they're the chair or the vice chair of any of these committees. Read their bio. How long have they been in office? For example, I know that my state representative, that this is his first time being in office. I know that he never held an elected office prior to becoming a state representative in my district. I know that his election was highly controversial, but you know what? I also know that he has a relative that has special needs. So what does that give me? That gives me an opportunity to open the door and have an easier conversation with this person. I have now found something that makes what we want to do relatable to my elected official. And that's what I'm trying to impress upon everyone. Get to know them a little bit and see if you can find some sort of a connection. And why is that important? Because the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get in contact with this elected official. There are many ways that you can do that. You can do a phone call, you can do email, you can do social media, you can try and attend a town hall. But you know what? I spent a lot of years in government, and I'm going to tell you from my personal experience as a chief of staff, the best and most effective way to get in contact with your elected officials is to pick up the phone and call. You're going to get a staffer on the other end of that call. From a state office, that's likely going to be either an executive secretary or a legislative assistant. And those are the gatekeepers for your elected officials. So you want to build a rapport, build a relationship with these people. Get to know them on the phone. If you want to send an email and you're more comfortable that way, I understand. But expect to not get a response right away. Elected officials and their staff members get hundreds and hundreds of emails a day. And in addition to reading their own emails, they also typically go through their members' emails as well. And they sift through those. So it's very easy to get lost in the shuffle. So if you pick up the phone and you make that connection, it's likely going to be a much more effective way to communicate, at least initially, with your elected official and their staff. So what I've put here, and again, you guys will have access to all of this, is I put together a script, right? Because people, when they're dealing with elected officials, people have a tendency to be intimidated. But, I think that it's very easy for all of us to forget that elected officials are people. They eat, they breathe, they sleep, they grew up in our communities. They may or may not have kids, but they had a mother or a father. They're members of our communities. So don't be afraid of them. You are their constituent. It is their job to respond to you, to listen to what you want, to try to help you get what you need. That is their job, and our tax dollars pay for their job. So don't be afraid of them. They're people just like you and I. So I did write a script because I do know that, most of us, and including me, I still put together a script when I'm getting on the phone with an elected official that I've never spoken to. So we all do this. And this is just a quick, hey, I would like to meet with, Representative so-and-so. So for example, hi, my name is Dorothea Lantz, and, I live in the city of South Miami. I'd like to make an appointment to meet with, Representative, I don't know, so-and-so about the upcoming legislative session. Are you guys doing in-person appointments or are you doing virtual appointments? this is a new part, obviously, because of the COVID effect. So there are a lot of state elected officials and federally elected officials actually that are just not doing in-person meetings right now because of COVID. But most of them are doing Zoom meetings or some type of FaceTime meeting where you will have the opportunity to speak to your elected officials. So if you can't get an in-person meeting and virtual is the only option that they're giving you, take it and go with it, because it will still get you face to face with the person that can make the difference. So more often than not, you know, the staff member is going to say, you know, what would you like to speak with member so-and-so about? Let's see what we can work out. And then you can talk a little bit about Prader-Willi syndrome. My son, my daughter, my sister, my brother has a rare disease known as Prader-Willi syndrome, and I would like Representative so-and-so to sponsor a resolution to bring awareness to the rare disease to help our community have some recognition for PWS Awareness Day. Why is this an easy request? This is a nonpartisan issue. I have never known an elected official to turn down an opportunity to do something like this. It brings goodwill. It doesn't have any cost. It shows that you're trying to help your constituent. You're trying to build awareness. And most elected officials are willing, especially in this climate, to do something for the greater good. So just talk a little bit about that. And we're hoping that the staff member says at that point, okay, let's look at the calendar and see what we can do. They may not. They may say, okay, let me speak to member so-and-so and, you know, figure out when they can get back with you. You know, just be prepared for that. You should also be prepared for, oh, well, member so-and-so happens to be here in the office. Do you have a few minutes to speak to them right now? So when you make this initial phone call to set up a meeting, be prepared for this to actually be your meeting. And I know that might that might throw some of us for a loop, but just be prepared for it. Okay, so if you don't get a meeting on that time, but you do get an appointment, or maybe they hang up the phone on you, it doesn't matter. Write a thank you email. And I say email in this instance because if you haven't met in person yet, this is the proper way to go. Why is this so important? It shows that you care. It shows that you are a constituent who takes the time to respond to your member, even if they are unwilling to do what you ask. It does make a difference. And I would ask that in addition to writing a thank you email to the elected official, that you write the email to the staff member whom you spoke with. So when you're on the phone with the staff member, see if you can get their email address as well, so that you're able to do this. Staff members are the gatekeepers for every single elected official. And don't be surprised if you have children closer to the age of your staffer than you do to your own age. Most staffers, whether it's the state level or whether it's the federal level, are in their early 20s. They're just postgraduate school. They're trying to, make their way through this political scene. Each staff member typically has their own specialty, but at the state level, there's maybe 3 staff members at most. So taking the time to get to know those staff members and letting them know that you care and sending that email, it will make a big difference. And the more that you communicate, the more that they see your name, the faster they're going to respond to you. It's the old saying, the squeaky wheel. The squeaky wheel gets it. Okay, so then let's say we get our meeting. What do I say when I meet with my elected official? Okay, don't worry, there's another script. And yes, you will have access to this. So now there's a lot of room to expand on this. All right, so it's, hello, my name is Dorothea, I'm a constituent of yours. One thing that I do want to point out is when you're speaking to your elected official, it's not just I'm your constituent. It's, hey, You know what? I live in the city of South Miami. I'm down the street from South Miami Hospital. Yeah, you know where XYZ restaurant is right on the corner here. Yeah, no, I'm just down the street from that. It's taking a little bit of extra time to let your elected official know that you're not just a constituent, that you've been a constituent, that you are aware of the area, and that you visit local businesses. Letting them know little tidbits like that lets them know that you're active in your community. It just gives them a little bit more to hold on to. And it opens up the door for conversation for your elected official to say, hey, yeah, I go to that place all the time. Well, I live just down the street over there. You want to give your member the opportunity to engage in off-topic conversation with you so that you can kind of begin to create a rapport. So then I go into Prader-Willi syndrome. Now, there is a lot on here that talks about many of the things that we already know about Prader-Willi syndrome. So you can say as much or as little as you want. But what I would impress upon you is to try to find a way to tell your personal story with Prader-Willi syndrome. What does that mean? When my son Hunter was born, we were given a pretty bleak picture of what the future would hold for him. We were told he wouldn't walk until he was 3. We were told, well, he wouldn't even crawl maybe until he was 2. We were told that he would never talk, that he would never have friends, that he would be severely obese. And you can just fill in the blanks from there. We were told some really horrible things. And guess what? That's not our life. That's not our reality. We now know that with early intervention and access to available therapies, that the future for our kids could be limitless. They have a much improved quality of life, and we're hoping that they can all live independently one day. So it's starting to explain a little bit about where you were, where you are, and where you want to go. And getting personal helps, because you're asking them to do something that really is very simple for them and it's non-controversial. You're asking them to sponsor a resolution during the next legislative session that recognizes Prader-Willi syndrome as a rare disease and declare any day Prader-Willi syndrome awareness day in your state. That's it. Making it personal will help the elected official relate to you as a person and not just a constituent. And that makes all the difference in the world. And you know, most people nowadays know someone that has been affected by a rare disease, or at least know someone who has been affected by a disease that has a spectrum disorder, and PWS is a spectrum. So being able to share a little bit of your story with this person humanizes you, and it makes your story real and makes your story come to life. And finally, when you're done telling your story, please, don't forget to ask them questions. You want to ask whatever comes to your mind. Hey, by the way, do you happen to know anyone that may have a rare disease? Do you know anything about Prader-Willi? Most of the time, by the time that you get to the end of the conversation, there's already going to be that interaction. But if they haven't asked you any questions, find something that you would like to ask them, because questions provide an opportunity for follow-up. And follow-up is one of the most important things after you've met with your elected official. You want to make sure that they're following through with your request, and you want to make sure that you're continuing to build that relationship. So, okay. And then I'm kind of going back again, because once we've had all these meetings and once your member has said, yes, absolutely, I'm going to sponsor this for you. And 9 times out of 10, they will, because it doesn't take away from the bills that they're allowed to sponsor for the legislative session. And it's an opportunity for them to show goodwill. Please write a thank you note. Write a thank you note. And when I say write a thank you note, You can write a thank you email, and emails are great, but don't forget that these folks receive hundreds of emails a day and that staffers often go through their emails first. When I say write a thank you note, I don't know if anybody's going to be able to see this because I have a background on it. Write a thank you note. So it doesn't have to be a professional thank you note like this. It can be a thank you note written on 8.5 by 11 piece of paper stuck in an envelope, or it can be a thank you note that has your personal information on it. Writing a handwritten thank you note, especially in this day and age, will get you noticed. It is the difference between somebody who is taking a few seconds to say, hey, thanks, and a person that is taking a few minutes to saying, you have the ability to change the future of my family. It makes it personal. And that's what we're going for here. It really, really, really does make a difference. So here I have some tips. Let me just move this. I have things all over my screen here that I'm trying to move around. Just a few tips for when you're speaking to your elected officials. Obviously use words they can understand. We're hoping they understand the English dictionary. Some of them don't necessarily have the ability to do that, but that's okay. Be respectful. Please, please, please be respectful. And when I say this, I'm going also back to the staffer perspective. Please don't, if you happen to be on the phone or in person with someone who is younger, please respect the fact that this person is where they are because they know what they're doing, regardless of how old they are. I cannot impress that enough. Don't bring it up. If you can talk to them about anything else in the world, but just be respectful of the fact that they have the experience and the knowledge to be where they are. They've earned the right. I was very young when I was chief of staff, and I cannot tell you how many times I had groups of people come into our office thinking that I was an intern, and they were not nice. And those people did not get what they wanted. They waited longer for appointments. They waited longer for phone calls. Those people will wait. Be respectful of staff, period. Let the elected officials know that you're a constituent. We talked about getting personal. I'm down the street from this. I go to this place all the time, blah, blah, blah. You can talk about schools. You can talk about COVID. You can talk about anything. Know the basics of what you're talking about. In this situation, that's very simple. You know the basics of PWS. We all live in the world of Prader-Willi. We know how it affects each one of our families. We, a lot of the times, know how it affects our friends and their families. So we have a grasp of the issue. Just always remember that we're talking about the issue. Establishing credibility in the issue. Again, that ties back into the fact that we know PWS. When you're on the phone and you're making an appointment, try not to tell your whole story on the phone, unless you have someone asking you about that. Otherwise, try to keep it brief. Know that time is short. There's a lot on everyone's plate, and just be mindful of that. Focus on one issue. This is another thing that makes what we're trying to do much more simple. We're focusing on having states recognize that PWS exists. We're looking for a proclamation for PWS Awareness Day. It's a one issue situation. And again, stick to a script, especially if you're nervous. Don't forget to follow up. I've probably said that a million times, but elected officials and their staff members have a lot on their plate. You have to be able to follow up. If you want to make a calendar and say, okay, I spoke to this person on Tuesday the 2nd, and you haven't heard from them and it's been a week, make a note on your calendar that on that day, a week from the first time that you spoke with them, you're going to give that staff person, you're going to give that office a call back and say, hey, did you have a chance to look on the calendar and see if I could get that appointment? And just keep doing it. It's follow through. Again, the squeaky wheel. Okay. what does a proclamation look like and what should it say? So what I have here, and I am going to click on this and hopefully I am able to figure out how to share the screen. So what I'm clicking on right now is the resolution that was passed in Congress declaring the month of May National Prader-Willi Syndrome Awareness Month. Can everyone see my screen? Is anyone there?
No.
Can you hear me?
Guys, I can hear you. Okay.
No, I don't see it.
Okay, so
Stop sharing this one
okay, stop.
And now
And I'm
share
gonna
the
share
website one.
I can only see the link.
there. Can you see it now?
Yes.
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 Okay, perfect. Okay. So, and again, you all will have access to this presentation and the links are in the presentation, but this is what the resolution looked like in 2010. And it basically goes through what Prader-Willi is, what studies have shown, the fact that there is not a cure for it, the fact that early diagnosis makes a difference. It talks about, recent treatments that have come to light, like growth hormone. And then it goes into, just the everyday things that most proclamations stay. So it goes to, this may lead to a better understanding of what Prader-Willi is. We have a better idea of addressing public health concerns. We're hoping that, eventually we're going to find a cure for this. We want to support awareness. We want to support education. We appreciate the effort that, advocacy groups have been doing on behalf of the condition, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is helping your elected official get the work done. And that's another thing that that a lot of people forget when they're approaching their elected officials about doing something. The more information that you can give them to make their job easier, the more likely they are going to be to want to do what you're asking. So if you come to them and you already have language ready to go and you say, you know what, this was passed in Congress back in 2010, and you give them that language, you've done their job. All they need to do is take this language, give it to XYZ committee in the state legislature. It's redrawn up according to the way that that particular states deals with resolutions, proclamations, and it's done. You've essentially done their job. And that's good for you, that's good for us, and that's good for them. This is going to help us get the opportunity to not just get to know more about who our elected officials are, but actively engage them in something that will be making a difference in people's lives. And when they see that it's been recognized on the national level, it's good. They're going to be much more likely to want to do it at the state level. Okay, so let me, hold on a second, I'm going to do states. Okay, I'm sorry, I just see that there's a question here. I want to go ahead and read it really quickly. Wondering, do states that already have proclamations need reminders to re-recognize it? Is there something we can have those states do? So you know what, that's a really interesting question. I'm going to click, I guess, answer live. So I think it was, I can't remember if it was the state of New York. I think it was the state of New York that recognized Prader-Willi a few years ago, and they recognize it every year. So when I was researching through their state statutes and the laws that they've been passing since they recognized Prader-Willi as a qualifying condition, it started with a proclamation, which is how this all typically starts, It's recognizing that the disease exists, and that's typically through a resolution which ends up with a proclamation. And the state of New York automatically redoes that every single year. So every single year since they've recognized a PWS Awareness Month in the month of May, they've repassed it every single legislative session, which I thought was really cool. Now they have a Prader-Willi Awareness Month, but they don't have a day. So we still have the opportunity to get them to go back and get a day. Let me stop sharing this and see if I can get back to the presentation. Okay, new share. And here, is this it? Okay, am I back at the presentation? Can you guys see this? I just need one person to answer.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, great, awesome. Okay, so questions and answers. Guys, ask away. Okay. Anyone? Does anyone have questions? Nobody has a question?
Hey, Dorothea, it's
Hey,
Melanie. Thank you so much for doing this. This is really, really helpful. Will you be able to give us guidance individually on
Yes.
where to start as far as which representatives to contact?
Yes, absolutely. And honestly, starting with your representative is the way to go. You are a constituent. They're much more likely to respond to you than someone who isn't. And
for example, are we to contact our congressperson, our representative, our US senator? Who are the people that are most likely to be in a position to help influence this?
So what we're trying to do, and what we would like to do, is have PWS recognized as a rare disease. So PWS Awareness Month or PWS Awareness Day for every state in the United States. So if we're doing it at the state level, it would be contacting your state representative or your state senator. And typically you would have to have a resolution in the House, in your state House, and in your state Senate. Some members will go ahead and take care of that for you. Some members will say, okay, well, you're also going to need to contact your state senator so that they can also file this resolution in their Senate, so in the state Senate. There needs to be a corresponding bill in both houses. But I am happy to make myself available and help walk anyone through this process step by step. Just let me know when you're available and I will make sure that I'm available to help walk you through it. And I'm happy also to role play. If you're nervous about, making the phone call or having that first meeting, I'm more than happy to play devil's advocate and be that person on the other end of the phone or the other end of the camera, kind of going through everything with you.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Hi, Dorothea. This is Krista.
Hi, Krista.
Hey, do you think that we would need to take, Georgia is a little different state. I mean,
So is Florida.
like, and Georgia, just, I don't know. It seems like they just don't want to recognize anything but autism, even though Prader-Willi has some sort of autism as well. Do you think that we would need, when we talk to the representatives, that we need to be with more people, like just more than just one person like me?
I know exactly what you're saying. So it's easier to do things in a group sometimes than it is when you're kind of flying solo. It's a little bit easier when you have someone that you can lean on. And honestly, it really just depends on your comfort level, and it depends if there's someone else that for example, let's say we have, so you're in Georgia, let's say we have someone else in Georgia, but they happen to live in Atlanta. So their state elected officials are going to be different than your state elected officials. Well, perhaps what you could do at that point is, hey, Dorothea, is there anyone else in the state of Georgia that is looking to do this, that maybe would like to help me? Sure. One of you could pick your state representative and the other one could pick your state senator. And then each of you, assuming the meeting is virtual, could sit in on each other's meetings and say, so, you know, Representative so-and-so said that they would really, really love to sponsor this proclamation, this resolution in the House. Would you be willing to do this in the Senate or vice versa? So that's one way that might help. I would be happy to sit in the meeting. I don't know if that would be helpful because I'm in Florida, but I do know that sometimes it feels better when you know that you're not alone in the room. But don't forget that, you know, what you're doing here is you're not asking them to sponsor a bill, right? So this isn't going to be something that has to be written in law. What this is just this gives the elected official an opportunity to promote goodwill and help get recognition for a rare disease, in addition to getting recognition for helping with that rare disease. So 99.999% of the time, your elected official is going to be very happy to be able to help with this one issue. Now, going back a year or two later and saying, you know, hey, remember this resolution that you sponsored and we got this beautiful proclamation, and the month of May, or, you know, May 15th of, you know, 2022 is now Prader-Willi Syndrome Awareness Day or Prader Syndrome Awareness Month. You know, this is something that's really important to us. And, you know, in the state of Georgia, it's not a recognized condition. You know, we have 14 states that recognize it as a qualifying condition for services. It is a spectrum disorder. You know, it has a lot of overlap with autism spectrum disorder. You know, so a year or two later, you can go back and make that case. But this request of going in and just looking for recognition, it's the easiest way to get your foot in the door, and truly most elected officials are going to jump at it.
Okay.
But if you don't want to do it alone, you let me know, and you know what, if I can't do it, I will find someone in Georgia to help you and go in there and be your wingman.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? I don't see any. I'm going to see if I can go down here. I don't see anything in the Q&A. And I don't see anything in the chat. Okay. So folks, if there are no other questions, then we can go ahead and finish up. Oh wait, I'm seeing screen sharing has stopped. Okay. I don't know what just happened. Can anyone see my screen? Okay. No. Okay. Can anyone still meet? See me?
I just see you.
Okay, that's good. Okay. I'm going through some of these. I see wondering, do the states that already have proclamations need reminders to re-recognize? Yeah, I think I answered that question already. I did answer that question, right? Where, you know, some states, it may have been 5 years or 10 years or 15 years.
Yes, you did.
Okay, all right, just making sure. Okay. Then that's that. If there aren't any other questions, then we can go ahead and wrap this up. But I will go ahead and reach out to all of you individually, and I am happy to help in any way, shape, or form to get this going. You know, we in the PWS community have a lot to be grateful for. You know, my son is 4, and there are a lot of us that are involved with the organization who have, you know, kids that have PWS who are a little bit younger, and we we have a lot to be grateful for the generation before us and the generation before them. They've put in a lot of work, which our kids and our teenagers and our adults have all benefited from. And, you know, it's really time that we go ahead and we come forward as a group and we start to continue the effort that all of these parents and advocates started for us so many years ago. I cannot impress how important that is. The parents that came before us, the advocates that did this before us, are the only reason that any of our families have access to the care, have access to the therapies that they do now. And we are in a position where we can step up and we can continue what they started. And if we don't, then the families following us will suffer. So I'm really hopeful that all of us in our community are able to step up 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 3 by 3, and really start to get the word out so that we can do more to continue helping all of our families that are affected by PWS. So if you all don't have any more questions, I can go ahead and finish up, and I will make sure that this webinar is included. I don't know if it's going to be, I don't know if we can get it in tomorrow's Pulse, but we should be able to have it up on our website in the next week or so. But I thank you all for your time. I know that it's a little bit rough to do this in an evening, at least if you're on Eastern Standard Time. And if you're over on the West Coast, it might even be a little bit more difficult because you're coming home from work. It's that 5 o'clock rush. So I thank all of you for taking the time to join me tonight. And I'm here if you have any questions. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks all.
All right. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.